Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this beautiful Tuesday night. It is July 18th, 2023, about 10:32 p.m. here in California. I was just outside hoping for the SpaceX launch, which just got aborted at the 5-second mark here just a couple minutes ago. So they'll try again tomorrow about 9 o'clock or so West Coast time. They're taking off there from the Air Force Base there in Southern California, where, by the way, we are seeing some earthquake activity. Subsequently, got some movement down here underneath all this concrete. I'm talking about the greater Los Angeles area around Bell, California. And we had a back-to-back three-pointer magnitudes come in here within minutes of each other. Now, these are fairly deep. The reason for that is because of a fault system here called the Puente Hills fault. Now, it is somewhat of a fairly new fault system, or at least as far as discovery goes. The thrust fault, by the way, it's a thrust fault, a little bit more hazardous in terms of creating damage when large earthquakes do take place on it compared to the, your typical strike-slip fault. So the thrust fault here was discovered in 1999, and it runs about 40 kilometers in three discrete sections from the Puente Hills region. It's a blind thrust fault. The fault plane does not extend up to the surface, but large earthquakes on the fault are relatively infrequent. But computer modeling has indicated that a major event could have substantial impact on the Los Angeles area. Now, I believe that is the case because, well, it's right underneath everyone's feet. This isn't the plate boundary called the San Andreas Fault that sits over here a good 20 miles or so away from Los Angeles. This has, I think, if not the same or even higher possibility in damaging the area with a earthquake of the size that's expected here. Let me show you guys here seismic risk. They're talking about a 7.2 to a 7.5 magnitude earthquake on this fault system here that the three-pointers just struck on. Now, there has been some earthquake activity out here historically. It looks like the frequency of a major rupture in the Puente Hills fault is on the order of once per several thousand years. Okay, that's not bad, right? The frequency of occurrence is relatively low compared to the San Andreas Fault, of course, which is the transform fault plate boundary. More specifically, geologists determined that the fault has ruptured at least 4 times in the past 11,000 years. Magnitude such as 7.2 to 7.5. That would be about 15 times stronger than the 1994 Northridge earthquake in terms of energy release. The fault obviously is right below the metropolitan Los Angeles area. That is the greatest concern there for the public. And here is just a scenario of this seven-pointer. They got it as a 7.1. This shows right here back in October 10, 2012, which obviously wasn't the case because we know about it, right? But this is a 7.1 on the Puente Hills fault system there. Again, it's a blind thrust fault. It does not extend up to the surface. That's why it took a little while to see it. But we're talking about all the way up into, looks like the extreme category for a large population out here, a large portion of the Los Angeles area. Match this up with the San Andreas Fault, the big one going, and this one here takes the cake. You would think, well, how can an 8.1 be larger than a 7.1? Well, it's all got to do with location, and this is one of the most, well, it is a very populated area in the world, and there is that fault system that sits right underneath all of these folks' feet. And it's a big one, not a big fault, but it's a big potential in terms of some heavy damage. We're talking about some extreme events being possible from that earthquake if we see something like that on that fault. Now, there has been some earthquakes there. It looks like the 1987 earthquake. That wasn't a big earthquake. That was a 5.9. Looks like that occurred back on that day, 1987. The Whittier Narrows earthquake, it looks like. Also, it looks like it was determined to be on the Puente Hills fault thrust system and could be identified by the fault plane solution of the main shock and aftershocks. It looks like there was a 4.4 roughly on this area as well back in 2010, 5.1 back in 2014, 4.5 in 2020, and a 3.6 in 2021. So presumed to be on the Puente Hills fault. This activity just goes to show you that the fault system is still very much alive and could be building here for the next big earthquake down there. That would be a big one for Los Angeles. Now, the slip rate here is on an average of 4.5 to 5 millimeters per year. That's 0.18 to 0.2 right there per year in inches. Again, it's only a 40-kilometer fault, but I think this is something we have to watch pretty closely here, folks. If you do a search on this thing, kind of scary what you see. There's a lot out there. They call this thing the LA's monster, LA's biggest monster. Talking about the that Puente Hills fault. Again, it's a thrust fault, and those are very capable of producing more damage when activity takes place there on that fault system. So we'll watch this. We did get a little bit of further movement over here around the Elsinore fault following this activity, so we know things are heightened over here across the Los Angeles area currently. So just be on guard. You know, this along with this sleeping monster over here, the San Andreas fault. You know, obviously that can produce an 8.1. That would be more damage on a large scale basis, but far as affected population, I believe a 7.5 directly underneath Los Angeles would be more damaging than the 8-pointer over here across the plate boundary. So continue to watch that. It looks like it was felt. Let's go here to the first one and see. A couple of folks did report feeling this earthquake in the chat, and I appreciate it. If you did feel this earthquake, let me know what it felt like. Somebody mentioned it was a rolling jolt. I believe a rolling jolt type of motion. So definitely chime in the comments. Let me know what you may have experienced. But for the most part with this earthquake right now, just some light shaking being reported all across the Los Angeles area, as you can see on the map. So always a good reminder, what's below your feet, right? You know, I don't really see the Puente Hills fault here on the USGS map, but it's there, obviously. Here's a little image of it. This is obviously all concrete and houses. Goodness. And there's other fault systems that run through here, but this is a Puente Hills thrust fault, and that one is capable of producing some rather large earthquakes. Let's see here. And if you want to read this for yourself, don't believe me, go check it out. This is just the article off of Wikipedia. A lot of information in here. And there's a lot of information. If you just do a Google search on Puente Hills fault, you'll see that there's just a bunch of info. Articles back from 2014. Yeah, a lot of stuff. All right, let's see what else is going on here across Southern California. Aside from this area of interest here, which is obviously of some concern, the San Andreas fault here for now is very quiet. This activity comes after a lot of movement out here across the plate boundary down south and into the Middle America Trench. Let me pull up this activity here on the globe. We did see another large earthquake down there off the coast of El Salvador today. That's going to be this earthquake down here, 6.5. Regionally speaking here across the area, things have been on the uptick. Also up here in the Baja California area. I know the USGS doesn't show a lot of it, but on the EMSC globe, we got all that migration of activity up along the plate boundary, trying to work its way there into Southern California, it looks like. So that's the area that we need to watch. But check out all this activity following that 6-pointer from earlier. That is just a massive amount of aftershock activity. Looks like a 3.0 coming into that area just within the last hour. And again, you know, that's a lot of aftershock activity for just, well, I can't say just a 6.5. That's definitely a good-sized earthquake. But this region, as we know, is a subduction zone, and it's way capable of producing a much larger quake than the 6.5. But for now, that's what we got. We'll continue to watch that, though. Keep an eye on this area, folks. It's been overly active, I would say, while the western portion here of the Pacific Plate and adjacent plates are quiet for now. We got that teeter-totter effect in full swing, and that's when I believe things are elevated out here. We need to take heed and watch. The rest of the states out here, a little scattered activity throughout the region. Yellowstone National Park, some earthquake from earlier this morning. Let's go ahead and check out Yellowstone, by the way, and see what we have. I'm sure we're going to see that 6-pointer show up. Yes, we did. It showed up pretty nicely across the region right here. Some S waves kicking in there as well, the wavy, squiggly lines. Far as earthquake activity goes, though, locally, it was confined here to the northwest corner here of Yellowstone. A couple smaller earthquakes from this morning. I believe the biggest was a 1.7. Not seeing any major swarms taking place there at Yellowstone. Looks pretty calm for now. All right, Pacific Northwest, a little spotty activity. Northern Cal, getting some movement down here across the Cascadia subduction zone once again. One from this morning, a couple of them from earlier today. 2.5 and a 2.3. So let's see what we have for the tremor map tonight. Excuse me. Hopefully, Cascadia tremor. There we go. 148 epicenters of tremor along the Cascadia, mostly up here into the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver Island range as well. Nothing going on in Northern California, but either way, this is a little bit of uptick here across the region of the Cascadia. We'll continue to watch that as well. This is another sleeping monster, right? Talk about monsters. We have monsters stretching out here from all the way up from Canada all the way down into Southern Cal. This whole area is just... yeah, that's the word for it. It's kind of on the scary side, but you really can't be scared out there, right? Just got to be alert, be prepared, keep an earthquake plan handy. Make sure you have stuff on the go if you need to. Los Angeles can be not a cool spot to be when you have a major earthquake. A lot of panic can set in. 2.0 up into the Gulf. A little bit of activity here across the Aleutian Trench. Nothing major going on. And there's the absence of earthquake activity here across the western Pacific. Teeter-totter effect in full swing out here on the eastern Pacific. Down into New Zealand. Looks like we got a 3.2 coming in and a 4.6 way up north. That's going to be this earthquake right here. From earlier this evening, super deep. 4.6, 573 kilometers there. Let's go ahead and check out the GeoNet servers, and then we'll get into the space weather. That's been another very active topic. 8 hours ago, 2.5. Let's see if we can find that 3-pointer they're talking about here. 2.2, 2.1, 3-pointer. Looks like maybe 2 hours ago there. Out in the what is that? The Cook Strait? I keep forgetting the name of that down here. Cook Strait. There we go. I was right. Outside Wellington. Little bit of activity kicking up there with that 3.1. Let's give a quick gander over here at the earthquake drums. Yes, I can still say gander. I don't know. I kind of like saying that word once in a while. Take a gander over there. All right. Goodness. I was all pumped up for the SpaceX rocket launch here. Last time I was able to see it, obviously when it gets way up into the atmosphere, you can see the vapor trail here from Northern California and pretty much all over here around Nevada as well. But they went down to the 5-second mark and called abort. Goodness, so we'll try tomorrow again. I want to get something on video. Either way, drums pretty quiet right now as far as earthquake activity goes there. So we'll continue to watch the west coast here, California. A lot of movement taking place here. We do have this earthquake off into the... there's been a couple divergent boundary earthquakes out here. It looks as though that has increased strain out here across the Middle America Trench. The general plate dynamics out here across the area. This is a... there's a couple fracture zones that are out here kind of splitting apart. And a lot of times that does increase activity out here across the plate boundary itself and the subduction zone of the Middle America Trench. So definitely keep an eye on that. Let me check out the seismographs right now. A little bit of activity there at Yellowstone, but Barrett looks like that's having another little small earthquake down there. Not all of these earthquakes that show up on the seismograph station are going to be reported here, but obviously you kind of have to, you know, when you feel the ground shaking underneath your feet in Los Angeles, there's obviously an earthquake going on. So the USGS pretty quick with getting these earthquakes up on the map. Either way, stay safe out there. Let's see what else we got. A little bit of movement here, Sumatra area from earlier this morning. It looks like 200 kilometers deep here. Getting some deeper activity here into the Java Trench. Over here across Europe, got 4-pointer in Romania. It's kind of a newer one. 12 kilometers deep. A little activity taking place here today, it looks like. Aside from that, Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet. All right, let's go ahead and jump into, we got some movement down there in the East Pacific Rise. Hold on a second. There's one earthquake here. Looks like there was another one stirring up out here. So all this divergent boundary activity adding further strain here. All this momentum tends to push up against these plate boundaries. That includes the Middle America Trench, the Peru-Chile Trench as well. All right, let's go over here to space weather and see what we have going on. Still have the proton event in full swing. Stuff like this can happen for, when it happens and it's a strong event, it tends to linger for a couple days here. These are, the effects of the charged particles and the activity that we've seen here over the last 24 hours with that long duration M flare from yesterday. That was quite spectacular. We did have another M flare, smaller one, earlier today, but things are still very active into the polar regions there in terms of the ionosphere activity here. Now that doesn't mean that that the auroras are stirring up there. That's just kind of the activity that's been stirred up from this solar flare activity from yesterday, proton event. Right now, it looks like 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 50, X flare around 20. And of course, that proton event could continue through the night and in tomorrow. We'll check this out tomorrow morning and see what see if there's anything new. A look at the solar sunspots here. We do have a pretty good sunspot region that's currently facing Earth, although it looks like this has died down a little bit. The flare that sparked up earlier was from this region, surprisingly. We do have numerous sunspots that are currently facing the Earth. The big one that produced that long duration M flare is now just about completely out of view there on the southwestern side of the sun. Back over here, we're looking at a pretty monstrous sunspot area. Going to have to keep an eye on that one. Not for sure if that's a former sunspot making its way around for a second time or not, but we'll get a better look at it tomorrow morning probably. No major aurora forecasts here for now. Here's the potential for a G1 class storm due to the massive CME that was stirred up yesterday following that long duration M flare event. Looks like that is going to miss Earth here. There is the brunt of that CME. That'd probably stir up a nice G3 storm if that were to hit us directly. But as you can see, just barely any type of glancing blow from that. I don't even think we'll see anything, but they're calling for maybe a G1 class storm here on the 20th as that gets close to Earth. But we'll see. All right, Storm Prediction Center here. A little bit of noise going on out in the where we got these thunderstorms at tonight. Well, this is for tomorrow. It looks like current day 1 threat I don't see anything major going on here, folks, over the next couple days, to be honest. Just a slight risk of some severe weather out here across these regions. Nothing big going on. Looks like just some hail, some rain, some thunderstorms, and that's about it. But for the most part, I want to give a quick glance here at this hurricane. Remember, we're watching this come into Florida towards the 1st of August. We'll see what we have as we put this into motion. Remember, that's a ways out, and it doesn't even look like it's on the map now. Notice that? It probably got caught up here over in the Atlantic and scooted out. But we'll keep checking back. You know, can't really trust these weather models. Maybe only a couple days out, but you know, it's fun to look at. It's kind of neat to look at the patterns, and a lot of times these are spot on. A lot of times these are dead wrong. But all I know is California is going to cook, and there's no end in sight far as the heat goes. Got a heat dome that's going to be lingering with us all the way through July. Look at that right there. Well, looks like a low pressure system trying to scoot in here towards 23rd of July, but we're still underneath the influx of that high pressure system. It's going to keep us hot. And yeah, I don't see any major pattern change out here for the West Coast. Some super huge ridging. Look at that. Oh, goodness. Get ready for some heat, folks. July and August, two of the hottest months, of course. All right. That's a little weird. Not for sure what's going on with that. All right. I am going to bounce out of here. Looks like my system just maybe crashed. That's really weird. All right, stay safe out there, folks. We'll catch you guys later. And, you know, just make sure you guys have an earthquake plan. And we'll see you guys back here sometime tomorrow morning. Peace out.